Um,
Hello, Dave. Welcome to my podcast. You are number two. Thank you. And I mean that in a positive way. Sarah Kello was last week, and you're kind enough to come on this week. So thank you. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's an honor to be one of your first podcast
I
people.
couldn't think of anybody better, Dave. I've enjoyed being on your stage before, and you're always so kind and generous, and you're full of wisdom. So I'm really looking forward to our time together. And as if anybody knows Dave, his theme for the year is obsessed with impact. He infiltrates that into every one of his presentations. Dave, you want to just quickly comment on what that means?
Yeah, so I almost every year for, I don't know, as many years I can remember, I've had a theme for the year that is usually one word. In 2023, it was adventure, and I wanted to just build more adventure into my life, into my work, personally and professionally. That led to walking and talking meetings, by the way. Like I did my first walk and talks in 2023, and then going into 2024, I interviewed Jeremy Forcier, a top producing mortgage advisor that I've interviewed countless times, and he said words of the year were obsessed in impact, and I swiped and adopted that, and then I've been hitting it hard with never been more obsessed with impact.
And even that, saying is having impact on the industry, Dave. So good for you and thank you. Now for in case you're watching this and you don't know Dave, Dave is the founder of Mortgage Coach, where I believe he became the leader in the advice revolution. And now currently he's the chief innovation officer at Trust Engine. He's also a co-founder of First Home IQ. You can't call him anything but a mortgage and real estate influencer in a very positive way. You're super passionate about financial literacy. You've broadcast thousands of broadcasts. Your broadcast includes Tuesday interviews with top producers, Friday masterminds with leaders, various leaders in real estate and mortgage. You have your Monday leadership thoughts, and then inevitably you post short videos almost daily with current event and topics. Does that cover it about Dave?
Yeah, I don't know if I do, but my goal is not daily. I mean, I try to have the Tuesday interview. Well, not try. I've done that for 15 years. The Friday mastermind, and then everything else kind of mixes in it. But yeah, no, I'm very passionate about finding the most successful people in our space that are purpose driven, they're values based leaders, they're servant leaders, and then showcasing them in our YouTube channel and different social media platforms.
Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, belated happy birthday. You celebrated your 60th birthday last year. Congratulations.
I did. I celebrated it last week, and that was a fun day. Yeah, I don't know if there's ever been a birthday where I just felt more comfortable about the age and everything. It was, I'm fired up to be in this chapter right now.
That's awesome. Although I have to tell you, I was jealous when I was listening to Jeremy talk about your 50th birthday party.
I there was no way we were going to repeat that one. That we'll keep that as the 50th, and I don't think it would have gone down that way if I wouldn't have been with Jeremy. And my wife actually called Jeremy and said, "Hey, it's Dave's 50th. He's away at business. Do something special." And I had no idea how that was going to play out.
If you guys are curious what they did, you can go back and listen to that podcast with Jeremy. At the beginning, Jeremy briefly talks about sharing Dave's 50th birthday while they're out of town in Las Vegas. It was a good story, but I was jealous. All right, you know what, Dave? You know what I invited you to talk about, and I'm excited to get your view on this. You and I have been to a handful of conferences, not together, but at the same conference, and I gotta tell you, I just admire how you get the most out of every conference. You are probably, and I tell a lot of people this, you are the best I've seen at getting the highest return out of a conference. And you do so many things, there's so many layers of things that I thought it would be a good topic to get you on and talk about your strategies going into conference and the multiple layers that you really try to achieve in a conference from before, during, and after, because it truly is a skill and you probably are the best at it. So with that, let's start with when you're getting to go to a conference and you go to 12, 15 a year, something like that.
I think that's a higher number than that, but I mean, over 6 and 12-ish is probably the max, 6 to 12. And I've done that, you know, and when I answer this question for you, I'm going to try to answer it in a way that's super valuable to a loan officer who's going to events. When I was a loan officer, I went to about 3 events a year. Sales Mastery was always one of them. And a lot of what I do today, I started doing in my 20s when I went to my first event, you know, and they're just things that I've always carried forward. And then one more thing I'll say is it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of the events you go to and the quality of the people that you meet. And then of course the actions that you take. You know, I always say the fortunes in the follow-up of everything, you know, but especially at events. So yeah,
Dave,
but
you might have been on
6 to 10.
you might have been on stage for one of the first conferences I went to as a loan officer back in 99 or 2000.
I might have, yeah. I think I spoke for the first time at Sales Mastery in 97, or it was either 97 or 96. And then I spoke at a lot, you know, a number of Sales Masteries over those years.
And the thing about sales masteries back then, unlike some of the more recent ones, and this isn't a criticism, but back in the 2000s, Todd would have keynote after keynote after keynote. I mean, you might have John Maxwell speak on the same day as Hersh Schulze, or as, I mean, it'd be like 3 a day. You'd be like, whoa. And so if you're sharing the stage with them, great for you. You know,
Yeah,
congratulations.
it was fun.
All right. So pre-conference, I think, we'll be at a couple of the same conferences that are coming up the next couple of months, whether it's, I think you're going to the Housing Wire AI conference, for example. You're going to Accelerate, not I'm trying to give your schedule, but let's say
Okay.
Accelerate, or whichever
Yeah, I'm going to Accelerate
fictitiously.
next week, and I went to Mastermind 2 weeks ago, and
Yep.
I'm running the exact same process, and it's the same process that I've run for many years.
So let's go through it. What's your pre-conference? What's the tactics and strategies to optimization pre-conference?
So I've always run this process, and it's not only for events, but it's a business planning process that I call OGSM. I didn't make this up. One of my early mentors in the 2000s, David Diamond, who was the president, he was an executive at Procter & Gamble. And if you Google OGSM, Google says that Procter & Gamble created this process, and it stands for objective, goals, strategies, and measures. And so I always just like, what's my objective? And when I was a loan officer, it was, I want to go and learn so I can close more loans. When I became a loan officer that also recruited loan officers, it was like, I want to go learn more loans, and I want to build relationships with other loan officers that I can hopefully have work for me someday, or I can learn from. And then when I founded Mortgage Coach, it was, I want to go and add value to people that were my customers. So I'd always have what's the goal from a customer perspective? And then I want to earn new customers. And I, always had that as an objective. And then I always try to have, that's the objective. And I usually write it out. I always write out my goals, never more than 5 and never less than 3. And they're pretty measurable in terms of, how many I call them impact meetings. So Ron, when you and I have had meetings, and I consider an impact meeting where I met with someone that's either a customer or a prospect, someone that wants to be a customer, and I have a 15-minute or more quality conversation, and they promise me some type of a follow-up outside the event. That's impact. And so the goal is always to have 10 of those. And it's the most, sometimes I get 20 of those, but it's the same thing when I was a loan officer. I used to look at the speakers, write down like the people I want to meet, and go in with intention. So there's goals, there's people, and then there's a schedule that you drive to make it happen.
So I heard you say that as you approach a conference, one, you set really the clear goals that are achievable and measurable, that you, before the conference, you reach out to potential people for impact for you. So now, I mean, how many meetings do you schedule before you get to the conference, and how many just happen, at the conference?
I mean, it varies from conference to conference. Like MBA annual is hard to get a lot, although I usually get 5 to 10 scheduled in advance for me and other people on my team. And typically, like, I won't support someone on my sales team if they didn't have 3 to 5
Mhm.
pre-scheduled. And then of course, at least 10 quality people to meet with at that event. And yeah, so I mean, I don't know the exact number of how many are scheduled in advance versus how many happen, but probably at least 50% pre-scheduled and 50% where I couldn't get someone to commit, but I get there, I text them and they're like, hey, I'll see you at this break. And
Yeah.
but it's at least 10 is the goal. And the more you get scheduled in advance, the better.
And that's a good lesson. You don't need to completely outschedule your day, because you need some openings for those magical moments that can happen that weren't planned.
Totally.
But you just have to be a bit available for them and pay attention. Let's talk about, and this is really the bulk, all the things that you do at the conference. And by the way, I have in my notes, which I have notes surprisingly, I have like 8 things that I know you do listed. And I'm not going to mention them because I'm going to let you talk about them. But even before we get to that, let's talk about best practices, because I know this from being at conferences with you. You're very particular about how you manage yourself, right? And how you stay in peak performance, because conferences are exhausting, and you're all over the place. And for you, you got to be peak selling, relationship, networking. How do you maintain your energy? What are your rules about managing yourself at a conference?
Well, first of all, I did just turn 60, and what I'm going to say next, in my 20s and 30s, I may not have lived by what I'm going to say, but I'm going to bed at a reasonable, like your day starts with how you went to bed and the state of mind in which you bed, the health, eat healthy food. I don't like, it's not uncommon that I'm just eating clean shrimp, salad, clean food when I'm at events. I'm going to bed, although steak, eat a lot of steak, but go to bed with clean food, not, I'll have a glass of wine here and there, but I am not buzzed. And then I always get up early. I mean, that's something I've done my entire career, 7 days a week, usually between a 4 and 5. And then I have a number of protocols that I do in the morning. And walking is one of those things, whether I'm walking with a client or a prospect, which I just started doing last year. I used to always just get up and do my walk by myself. Sometimes I'd have a team member that also was a morning walker that would join me, but I never even thought to ask a customer or a prospect to join me on a walk. That just became an innovation last year.
That's awesome. And so what I heard you say, I mean, you pretty much maintain your daily disciplines while you're out of town. I mean, you keep maintain the time you go to bed. And the other thing, which you said, which you kind of cross over, you have a very much kind of rigid, but a very formulated morning routine that gets you ready for peak state for the day. And you 100% honor that when you're out of town. Like, there's no cutting corners on that, right?
No, well, I mean, I try not to. Yeah, like I have about 10 to 12 things that if I do these things in the morning, I start the day right. And my rule is if I get like 5 of them done by 7, I won the day.
Yeah.
I don't, and I never, I'm looking at the list right now because I keep it in front of me, and it's pretty rare that I nail all 10 of these things, but it's pretty rare that I don't do 6 to 7 of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. You're super disciplined. Okay. So you're at the conference, whatever conference it's at. First, how do you decide? And it's easier for you, but you're still a student of the game. how much content do you want to actually get out of the conference? Like how much knowledge, or is it just for you at your point, being one of the leaders in your company, about relationship, and having those impactful meetings? And how much is, no, you kind of actually want to hear people speak and learn new stuff?
So, I mean, every conference I have stage content scheduled and I go to, and I do wonder sometimes I see people outside the room, like just doing nothing, but yet, when Shant Benushi was speaking at Modern Mortgage Summit and I looked outside the booth, I was like, what? And, Phil Jones, so I mean, I had a number of things scheduled that I did not schedule client meetings or prospect meetings with. And part of that's I really want to see what's being said. And then part of that's also I want to respect the event. So the things that are the most high impact value I have scheduled. Like I've already filled out my schedule for that Total Expert event next week, and I've already logged into the app for the Housing Wire uh, um,
AI conference?
AI
Mhm.
summit, and I've already put a few things on my schedule. Uh, and I would say earlier in my career, it was more focused on learning from stage and taking notes. Now, and it's not that I know it all, but I am prioritizing meeting with executives, and so it's a couple things that are time blocked, and then 70-80% I'm meeting with executives, and if I don't have a meeting, I'm in the event taking notes. I'm not, you know, burning time. Like when I'm
Right.
at an event, I'm either learning or I'm creating and innovating.
Perfect. But I mean, you do pre-study the agenda and then go, oh, I'm gonna make sure I'm there. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna see Shant. I'm gonna make sure I see Phil Jones. And it might only be one a day or two a day, but you're still intentful on what you're gonna consume and get what feeds you at that moment, which is less than when you're earlier. I totally get that. Okay, so wake up in the morning. What do what's the first thing if you're working an event for you? And I kind of know these answers because I've been on the other side of it with you. But what do you do first? What's the first thing you try to achieve in the morning
Uh,
from a networking standpoint?
oh, a walk and talk.
Walk and
Uh,
talk. So
yeah,
if you're at a 3-day conference, do you do one every day? You
no,
try to do one
it's
every
pretty, unless you're there, then I know I've got someone. Yeah, usually I'm pretty happy if I get one walk and talk per event. So if it's a 3-day event, the goal is one. And ever since I've started doing that, I think the majority of events I've had a walk and talk. And then of course you've helped improve my batting average because you're always up for a walk and talk.
So you like to do a walk talk at sunrise, which is sometimes challenging because not everyone else at the conference practices the same daily
Well,
disciplines.
yeah, but that's just the way it is. Like I'm gonna
Yeah,
get my sunrise walk in, and if I have to go
yeah,
alone, I go alone, and then I'll meet if someone doesn't want to get up that early. I will try to have a breakfast meeting with someone.
absolutely.
So walk and talk, breakfast meeting, lunch meeting, and dinner meeting. So those are trying to have those filled with meals with clients and prospects.
Yep. And you do coffee meetings in there too. I know.
Yeah, that's in between. I mean, I don't drink coffee after, first thing in the morning. I'll just have one little espresso and then I'm done. But if it's not uncommon where, there'll be a coffee shop that's kind of centrally located where everybody wants to meet.
Mhm.
And I'm buying people cups of coffee, but I'm not doing more than one espresso a day, or I'm just jonesed out and messes up my day.
How about how about you happy hours, dinner? So happy you do happy hours. So
Yeah, usually
like
like
you,
it was not uncommon. Like Cindy Urban was having a happy hour, and then I went
yeah,
to a dinner, and yeah, but it's like you are there to have impact conversations,
yeah.
quality conversations with quality people that lead to follow up and business. Again, you can do busyness or you can do business. When I go to events, I'm there to do business, have quality conversations that lead to follow-ups outside the event.
Dave, being with you at some of these conferences, I would even say that differently. It feels like your focus is feeding relationships, and those relationships result in business. but it's not like you're on the prowl like a used car salesman. You're more like talking to friends.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean that to me, I've always had this thesis that the best salespeople are the best teachers, and my personal breakthrough in business was when I said, came up with the value prop that my advice makes a difference, and then I've lived my life accordingly. I'm reading books, I'm watching content, I'm interviewing people, and so everything I do is about creating value for other people. Like to me, selling in business is not about taking, it's about just give, 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 give. And the only right hook I'm ever going to have is take 20 minutes to make an informed decision around what we're doing, if that makes sense for you. And so I'm never just stalking and taking. I'm always just like, got an idea. You want to,
Yeah.
let's talk about an idea, and hopefully my idea is something that is valuable for you.
And to that point of giving, oftentimes at a conference, so there's you can go to a happy hour, or you can go to a dinner, or you can host one, right? And you do both, right? Depending on the circumstances and who's there, and what's your strategy behind that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do both. I mean, you were at a dinner at this last event that I
Thank you.
hosted, and it started off as me having a prep dinner with a couple leaders from a panel that I was having, and you were a customer, another customer was there, and I just felt like, hey, I got a lot of customers here. I got to say thank you. And that was a hosted event, but I went to a number of other events that were hosted by other folks, and usually I probably average one hosted event, whether that's a
Yeah.
dinner per event, and then the rest I am going on someone else's event. And that's pretty common.
Yeah. And by the way,
But
thanks for
there's
that.
not like some annual plan there or anything. It's
So
just like, and I will say nowadays it's so noisy out there that I probably find myself going to other events and not planning, because I can make more impact. I can have more meetings, and I could go to two dinners, like I could
yeah.
go to an early one, go to a late one, and create more impact and have more impact. So if anything, I'm hosting less than ever.
And even like, you mentioned Cindy Ertman hosted a reception, and Cindy, if you're listening to this, I apologize, I couldn't make it, but thank you so much for the invitation. So you went to Cindy's reception, and from that reception, you and a handful of folks had a really valuable dinner. I think it was you and Phil Jones and Shant,
Yeah,
Osanian.
Rosemary David was hosting a really nice, generous. Rosemary, if you see this, she is an amazing leader, and I was fortunate enough to be invited to a dinner that she put on.
Yeah, see, that's great. I mean, the thing is, Dave, you work for getting the most impact out of a conference from sunrise to bedtime, and you really keep your energy and stamina going. How about, I've also saw something, and you can tell us how often you did it, but you did either podcast or live broadcast. It seemed quite frequently from the last conference we were at.
Yeah, you are the notice. You notice I try to keep my schedule. So I mean, I every Tuesday at 9 Pacific for 15 years, with some exceptions, when I'm have to be in flight or I'm on stage, and I made a decision to prioritize that. But I mean, most Tuesdays at 9 and most Fridays at 9, I am interviewing someone awesome. And so if those things are happening at an event, if I like my room, sometimes I'll do it in my room. And if I feel like the open space is appropriate, and I just, at this particular event where you saw me, I felt like, hey, that the quality of the internet, I just
Yeah.
do it right there, which by the way, ended up being a home run, because we ended up having Phil Jones come in for the first 15 minutes and just add a lot of unscripted value, like things that weren't even part of the plan. But
Okay.
as the thing started, I'm like, hey, come join me. And it ended up adding a lot of value.
Yeah, and there's some value you did. You did the podcast straight from the atrium at one of the, I think, just off one of the vendor booths, and you were getting quite a bit of attention doing it too. So
Yeah.
super valuable.
Yeah.
Now,
And by the way, it was the first Home IQ booth. And thank you for being a First Home IQ founder friend. Check it out.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to do it. By the way, you and I did a quick little live after one of our walk and talks. That
Oh,
is the funniest thing I've seen. You know, we're talking we're on the second floor of the atrium, and behind us is a giant sphere with this face making, you know, fun, like different funny faces at us. Have you gone back and seen that? I went back and watched it because somebody
I,
mentioned it to
I
me.
didn't
It's
watch the
hilarious.
whole thing, but I did go back just to like see it. And yeah, it was hysterical. We were not as strategic as we could have been with our background.
We were trying to be interesting, and it swallowed us.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now, Dave, you are a co-founder, organizer, driver of your own conference, right? You have modern mortgage and modern real estate. This last year was both live and online. You had 60 people paying a premium price to be butts and seats to see it, and then you had 5, 6, 7, 10,000, whatever people subscribe online. They had watch parties. And so you're more than just someone who goes to conferences. You host a very successful conference. Any thoughts about that? How is there any how going to so many of them and being a professional conference goer has lend itself to how you run your conference?
Well, first of all, I've done countless conferences. I mean, back in the day, Mortgage Coaches put on, multiple thousand loan officers events. I think our biggest event was pre-meltdown, and we had over 2,500 loan officers. The ones you're calling out, those were put on by Win by Noon, and Todd Bookspan is a good friend and a partner. And we have put on the Modern Mortgage and the Modern Real Estate Summit for 7 years. Now that event has been mostly virtual. It's only been in the past couple of years that there's been a live element of it. And it's not the same thing. I mean, what Matt is doing and a lot of these other events, there's just a whole lot more work that goes into what we're doing at the Modern Mortgage Summit. But I do believe they're great events. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
really cool format. And I don't know if you noticed it, but what I did at Matt's event was really a mini Modern Mortgage Summit.
right.
I got up, delivered 10 minutes of content. I brought up Brian McCauley, then Shayla Gifford. Each of them gave like an 18 to 20-minute keynote,
Mhm.
and then I closed it. So that was really like a 2-hour chunk of the Modern Mortgage Summit. And I really
Yeah.
like that format, and I plan to continue to do that format.
And by the way, not to mention, you also host Scriptapalooza every year, which is out last. I don't even know how you're going to outdo last year,
Well,
which was unbelievable.
yeah, we've got to get that scheduled. You just reminded me we don't have Scriptapalooza scheduled, and we got to get it scheduled. So I will get on that today.
So going back to the modern mortgage and real estate summits, it's a half day of mortgage, half day of real estate. You have 6 or 8 speakers for each session, and it's like TED Talks, and it's the top people in the industry for both real estate and mortgage, and it's super fresh, super fast. If somebody wanted to, you're selling access to the vault, or you can get
Yeah,
access to the
you
vault.
could
Is
go
that
to
correct?
modernmortgagesummit.com and sign up and get a 1-year pass to that. So yeah, check it out.
Pretty
And
nominal cost if you want to.
yeah, I think it's $100.
Yeah,
It's
$100, and you get 14 hours of phenomenal content of the best, some of the best people in our business.
it is really incredible. And then Scriptapalooza, we've done that for more than 5 to 8 years, and it's all free on the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. So check that out.
Yeah, and last year, it was unbelievable. If you could get Phil Jones again, that was just so good. It was,
Yeah,
and he has such a
he already
diverse.
he agreed to do it again this year. So that is in planning stages right now.
That's awesome, and and you had such a diverse group of people doing scripts. Some were more polished than others, but each brought a ton of energy. It was great. So now, Dave, when you're at a conference, you use a little technology to assist in your note taking. What do you do?
Yeah, I use Otter. So I don't usually record conversations with clients, and if I do, I ask permission. So
Yeah.
anybody that's having a meeting with me, I'm not recording that unless I say, "Hey, do you mind if I record this real quick?" But yeah, when I'm in the audience and I'm listening to something, I usually have Otter going, and usually that's like I'll miss a word and I want to go back and look at it, or as they say something, I might want to highlight something like, "Ooh, that's a takeaway."
Yeah.
But I'm always have Otter running, and then I'm always taking notes and yeah, taking notes and recording notes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you turned me on to Otter AI, which is awesome. It just, and I know you don't use it in your client. I wasn't in your client meetings. I mean,
Well, I
but
just want to make sure people knew that. I mean, by the way, I do use it, but I would tell someone if, hey,
yeah.
let's record this real quick.
But in session, you'll record the session in case people like me are annoying you and texting back and forth with you about, hey, did you hear what he just said?
I got it. And now you're using Otter now, right? Like
Yeah,
you adopted.
100%.
It's you like it?
Yeah, yeah. I just got to remember, like you coached me, I got to remember to turn it off in between each speaker and turn it on.
I forget that sometimes also. Oh my God, but you know,
Or at the end of the day, I'll forget, I'll be excited, and I'll be headed out, and we'll put the phone in my pocket, and it's still recording for the next 3 hours. I'm like, man, I just burned 3 hours of my subscription time.
exactly.
All right. So one other thing, and then we're going to go to post conference. What do you do? But another thing that you do, and this is good advice for anybody, and I'm going to tell you this. It doesn't matter if you're someone like Dave that has decades of experience and relationships and is an influencer. In fact, at many of the conferences, Dave, I've been with you, quite a few people, or been at the same conference as you, quite a few people from stage thank you for the influence they've had on their lives, because you're just so generous about helping people. So you have a lot of impact. But one of the things that you do is you're fairly committed to helping the conference organizer or whoever owns it have the best conference. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have, it's funny. When I came up with my theme this year, obsessed with impact, as I really reflected on that, I mean, that has been the theme of my career. And I've always, I don't know, I get juice. Like my business why is helping people. Like it makes me happy when I introduce someone and those two people do business together. I've always just been a natural connector. I've always got a lot of value for that. When you do that over the course of 38 years in mortgage, and I've just always played hard, had fun. And so no, I'm at a point now where I know a lot of very influential people in the mortgage space and outside the mortgage space. And so and I'm always there to help. So I've got no financial interest in that, but Matt Emery is someone that I care about. He's putting an event together, and if I can give him some advice, and I have become someone whose advice makes a difference, and if I can connect him with someone, then I'm just always trying to add value.
Yeah, and the part that I pick out of that, Dave, is, and this is, it doesn't matter, you could be your first year in, is one, connect with conference folks before the conference even, and give them your wish list, or say, hey, can you please get this speaker? Or, hey, I know this speaker, would you be interested in meeting them? Now, you may or may not have as much influence as Dave, but there's still room there. And then, stay engaged with the speakers and the conference leaders through the conference and after the conference, right? Because they need that. They can't live in a vacuum. They need feedback from people that are buying their product and interested. Is that would you say that's the case?
Yeah, it's totally the case. And by the way, I didn't used to, like, there was a time where I had never spoken on a stage, was extraordinarily afraid to speak on a stage. And really my, call it the influence I've had in the space, it started with me going to a sales mastery, uh, being completely wowed. Every speaker was either getting business from realtors or getting business from builders. And afterwards, I reached out to Todd Duncan and said, "Hey, it would really be great to hear some other strategies, of how people get business. For example, my main referrals partner is CPAs and financial planners, and I would love to hear people talk about that." And I didn't like, and at the time, I really didn't have the confidence or feel like I should be on that stage, but I asked him, he was like, "That's a great idea. Do you know anybody doing that?" I'm like, "Well, I'm doing that. How much business are you doing?" "I'm doing this much." "Would you come be on a panel?" By the way, I was so scared, so nervous, but it's like, if you're intentional, like, reach out to people. And then I did back in those days, I did want to know the top people like Barry Habib. I wanted to know him. So like I don't, this was before text. I don't know how I got connected to Barry, but I wanted to know Barry and went up, introduced myself, and became friends with Barry and mastermind with Barry. And whether it was someone on a stage, I wanted to know someone, I would go after him and get to know him, coming from a place of curiosity, wanting to learn from them. And so, yeah, I would say, like, yeah, I've been doing this for 38 years, so I have built up an influence in the industry. But for every new person in the business, like, go to an event with goals, go to an event with a list of people that you want to meet, speakers and people you know that are going to be there, and then go there to make impact and get impact.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Dave, I will say one of the things I've noticed in this past year that it seems to me that you've helped a whole bunch of people get on stage while not trying to get yourself on stage. Like you put other folks in front of you, and I know you speak all the time, so it's not as big of a deal, but you really do promote those people around you, which is, really something that's admirable. All right, let's get to the post. You're done with the conference. Let's say the mortgage, mastermind summit, you're done. What happens next?
Yeah, I mean, the fortunes and the follow-ups, like that. I say that to my team all the time. And it's how many of those people that you met with that promised you something, you promised them something, how many of those mutual promises are kept, really determines on whether that was edutainment or whether that was success and growth. And so I've got a list of folks. It starts with writing all those things down, the name, the person, the what we promised each other, and then me fulfilling my promise, which usually involves an email. Uh, Great talking. Let's keep the conversation going. I have gotten to a point in my career where I have help and support, and I have got, an awesome best EA on the planet, Paul, who helps schedule meetings. But there's been many a times in my career where I help schedule my meetings, and then you just have follow-up meetings until good things happen.
So in your world today, what happens, I think, is at the end of every day, you capture all the promises you made or the commitments you made, all the actions you have to take, and you send those to Paul, and Paul automatically puts them as a task or an activity on your calendar so they don't slip through the cracks. Do I understand that
Yeah,
right?
a little bit. I mean, I'm a big Google Docs guy, so my OGSM document is a Google Doc, and then at the bottom of that Google Doc, has action items. And so it always starts with a Google Doc, and then I'm doing the emails off of that, and then when meetings are scheduled, it goes into my schedule. And then there's things like if it all didn't get done within a day or two, then yeah, I'll schedule some things for me to do in my schedule. But for the most part, I'm working off of a Google Doc
All right, perfect. One final
or
thought.
an Evernote. I'm like an Evernote freak, and
Yeah, yeah.
everything usually starts at Evernote as a personal note. And then once I kind of get done doing it, I'll copy paste it into a Google Doc so that Paul has access to it. Other salespeople in our company have access to it. It becomes a more collaborative document. But if you really want to get nuance, like I start almost everything in Evernotes. And are you an Evernote guy?
I'm a sticky note guy.
Oh yeah, like I was just looking how many notes do I have in Evernotes? Um, it's a lot. Yeah,
Gosh,
12,261 notes.
you're in the Evernote Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something else I'll have to pick up from you. All right, I'm gonna kind of go to this next thought and then we'll wrap up, but I really want to get your opinion on this. It's my, when the business gets tougher, when the challenges are harder, the solutions are more difficult. I seek out knowledge, and so I start going to a lot of conferences. Like when we're booming, everything's working right. I may not go to a conference a year, but if we're as an industry struggling and we're searching for solutions, I'm going to a conference every 2 to 4 weeks. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to go find stuff that will help my company and our folks. And I've always thought that for loan officers, no matter how successful you are, no matter how dialed you are, you will get something if you go to one of these top end conferences, and it will rejuvenate you. It will, lift you up. And I think so many folks in our industry they're succeeding, but they're putting their head down, they're putting blinders on, and they're really missing the opportunity to evolve and grow the way you can. And by the way, it's because of my belief that you can go and get a bunch of knowledge that I want to talk about conferences. Like it wasn't accidental that I wanted to talk to you today, because it's a really important skill to learn, but it's not worth a thing if you don't actually go. Right, the first thing is
Right.
go. And so what are your comments about that? What are your thoughts, Dave?
Well, first of all, I mean, my entire career is powered by obsessed with impact, a strategy of being a person whose advice makes a difference. And then, and I couldn't even begin to be who I was if I didn't go to events and listen, take notes, put ideas into actions. So, I mean, I am built by masterminds. Now it's by masterminds for masterminds. So like that has always been a theme of my career. So my thoughts are yes, every producer needs to do that. And I do agree with seasons in business. There's been years where I've always gone to at least one event. And when I was an operator in the space, it was sales mastery. And I've actually been to every single sales mastery, whether I was an operator, loan officer, owner, tech, entrepreneur. I've never missed one. So there's always been at least one event, usually two. And it's, so if you're an originator, yeah, you should be going to events, but you got to put it into action. If you just go there and it's a boondoggle and you party and I go out to nice dinners, but I go to bed early with feeling good. If you stay up late, party hard, you're probably not gonna execute well. And even on the last night, like I'm always like it's like the last night, I gotta put all my ideas into actions, do all my follow-ups, and it's not like I've never gone to an event and not done a great job following up. Like I have had some less than optimal events, but it was usually because I just, didn't do the right things. But it's pretty rare. Like I think it's safe to say that 90% of events I've gone to, I've pulled a lot of value and created a lot of value at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, Dave, I started by commenting how you're obsessed with impact. We've gotten here towards the end, and I'm commenting how critical it is for each of us to go and gain the information and knowledge we need to step up for the solutions that we need to provide. And in saying that, I want to give you the opportunity, because one of the things that you're obsessed with in this impact is helping loan officers and mortgage companies, better serve their clients over time. And that you've really been you and your company putting your heart and soul in how to help loan officers get closer and understand their clients better. Do you want to just give us a minute and talk about that?
Yeah. So yeah, I've had a really unique seat on the bus in the mortgage space. That value prop, my advice makes a difference. And then I founded Mortgage Coach so that it wasn't hollow words and a promise, but to be able to really show a consumer how giving price with advice is much more valuable to them. And I truly have a lot of passion in changing the industry so that every mortgage company, every loan officer, when they run a credit report, like there is a big opportunity to create impact for that consumer by just giving a little more information. showing people every time whether it's a first time home buyer or move up buyer, remind them about the power of home appreciation with a leveraged mortgage. Put in the appreciation rate and show them how their net worth might grow over 3 years, 5 years, whatever number that matters to them. Show them that if they paid an extra $100, $200, if that's their goal to pay off their mortgage, which most people have financial freedom as a goal. A lot of people are like, oh, should I invest in the S&P? Or should I pay down my mortgage? Or should I buy real estate? And I'm kind of like, do it all. Buy real estate, invest in the S&P, and maybe pay off your debt, or maybe invest so much in the S&P that you have enough money that paying off your mortgage is just a strategic financial planning decision. So I think, well, I don't think I know for a fact that if a loan officer, every time they ran a credit report and every time a consumer said, pre-qualify me, should I do a loan? If they just like spend an extra 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and that's truly what it takes, 3 to 5 minutes to deliver this. We call it a mortgage coach total cost analysis, that the loan officer would close more loans, the lender would close more loans and be more profitable, and the consumer would be like way better off. So working hard to drive that change through Trust Engine and Mortgage Coach.
And then Dave, Trust Engine has a not new, but evolving product called the Borrower Intelligence Platform, where you are trying to help your clients understand and predict what their clients need, right? It's not only looks at triggers, but signals, uses predictive analytics, and you're really stepping in as a leader into that space and technology. Is that right?
Yeah. So the amount of data that a lender has on a consumer, and then when you take the amount of data that a lender has on a consumer combined with, data that can be available through Trust Engine, I mean, it's pretty staggering what we can do. We can understand out of a database who's eligible, the propensity, who is has the highest propensity to do a loan, and then we can provide context. And so, yeah, we're very passionate about partnering with lenders, taking their database, overlaying it with our data, and then we've got this new app that, I call it speed to need. Like, let's actually get to a consumer's needs before they even know they have a need, with advice and value. And I do believe that is the future of lending, is the combination of supercharging your database so you understand the eligibility, propensity, and context of every customer in your database. And then you're just prioritizing the most actionable opportunities and then making it easy for your loan officer to take action.
And then Dave, I'm actually going to circle back and link this to our topic today, which is optimizing your ROI from a conference. And if I misspeak, you can freely correct me. But with the BIP, you really are leaning into predictive analytics, being able to predict when a customer needs a mortgage before they even need it. But I remember we were at the gathering and we were listening to Varun, who I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but the CEO of Rocket, and he riffed about 5 minutes about predictive advice, and I've since heard, and maybe you're using it before, so I apologize, not, but you've adopted that, right? You were at the conference, you heard what he said, it resonated with you, and you adopted it, and now it's part of your platform at Trust Engine. Is that, do I understand that right? And is that an example?
Well, I mean, it was already, I had not put those two words together, predictive advice. So that was the first time I'd heard those two words in the same sentence. But we've been using the word predictive, we've been using the word advice.
Yeah.
And yeah, now that is a term that we use, but we've been building on. I mean, part of the thesis when I did the transaction with LLR and sold the majority interest to Mortgage Coach, and we acquired Sales Boomerang, was Mortgage Coach has this incredible consumer experience that's educational and helps consumers make better financial decisions. And if we could take data and be more predictive with it and deliver all that educational experience, like it could be industry changing. And so that's something we're passionate about.
Yeah, I'm definitely wasn't suggesting that it was a new concept to you. What I am suggesting, though, that by being at that conference, you were able to get a new
Oh
phrase that
yeah,
you could
I'm
use,
always,
right?
and it happens on stage and it happens at dinner and it
Yeah,
happens by the pool, and it's all those conversations
and it
that
happens at walk and talks.
and it happens at walk and talks. Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, like there's everything I am has come from interviewing people, attending events. Like I've got no, original ideas, just connecting them in a way around a business strategy.
Yeah. So, Dave, you've been super kind, coming on my second podcast. You've been awesome. Any final thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I think given your audience that everyone that watching this is in mortgage, maybe some people are in real estate, and I just truly believe that we have an incredible run ahead. But I also really believe that the status quo is not the way forward. And that leadership, data driven leadership, is the way forward. So Ron, I love the conversations we have. I'm looking forward to our conversation when we talk about data-driven leadership and we talk about how your C-suite executive can help formulate strategy with regionals and branch managers. But if you're in real estate mortgage, status quo is not the way forward, and it's time to get serious. And when I say data, it's not just what we're doing, predicting folks. It's looking at your loan officers, putting them in tiers, and then driving business strategies to get all your loan officers in the high performing tier. Because having a bunch of bottom tier loan officers that aren't profitable, they're not winning, you're not winning, the consumers that are getting served by them are not winning. So it's all about leadership. And I hope I look forward to continue to create awesome content with you, and hopefully together we'll elevate the leadership in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Dave. I would just finish by inviting anyone who watches this, sign up for a conference. Use the best practices that Dave talked about, the things that you've gleaned from this conversation, but just go to a conference, go expand yourself. Make sure that you attend Scriptapalooza. It's unbelievable. I mean, think if you have the people with the best scripts in the world who then get critiqued by possibly the most impactful wordsmith, and by the way, Phil would be offended if you heard that,
It
wordsmith
would not be.
on the globe, right? And it's amazing how the best people in our business are humbled and how they receive it. And it's just make sure you go to Scriptapalooza. And then if you're looking for a conference, I think the next easiest conference to go to, and Dave, correct me if I'm missing something on the calendar, is probably AmCon in Dallas. It's Renee Rodriguez puts it on. It's a big conference. It's relatively inexpensive. If you want to go dip your toe into a conference, that might be one. Do you have any other ones come top of your mind coming up on the calendar, Dave? That for a loan officer or a branch manager might want to go to?
I'm going to start doing a better job at savageinsights.com of whatever conference I'm speaking at, having a link to that, and also having a calendar of what I think are the conferences that, if you're an executive, here's the top conferences. You're a loan officer or producing manager. So stay tuned at savageinsights.com for a better job of that. But right now, AmpCon, in fact, I'm going to be interviewing Renee pretty soon, and it's time to start promoting that awesome event. And then of course, my next event, I don't think it's loan officers, but executives and managers, the AI Summit put on by Housing Wire. Pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I'm going to see you at the Housing Wire. I'll see you at AmpCon. Look forward to it.
Are you going to the Total Expert event next week?
No, you know what? I'm still on the bubble, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I saw Brandon is going to be there. I'm going to reach out to him.
Yeah, fantastic. Dave, thanks so much. For those that watch this, thank you so much. I'm open for feedback, encouragement. With that, get the most out of this and have a great day.
Take care, everybody.